Hello, today we are going to talk about deriving the quadratic formula. As you know, quadratic formula is one of the formulas that is used to solve quadratic equations. So we'll learn today how do we solve this, how do we derive or come up with this quadratic formula. Now, the quadratic formula, its derivation comes from completing square method. Now, consider a quadratic equation of ax squared plus bx plus c equals to 0. So this one is a quadratic equation whereby the value of a is not equal to 0, because when the value of a equals to 0, it will become a linear equation. It will no longer be a quadratic equation. So where the value of a is not equal to 0, that means we have to divide through by a. And when you divide through by a, you're going to end up with x squared plus b over a, x plus c over ax, and 0 divided by a is just 0. So at this juncture now, we can carry out a completing square method. So we complete the square for this above equation. So in completing the square method, we subtract c over a from both sides. So you will end up with x squared plus b over ax plus a certain dash equals to, remember we subtracted c over a from both sides, so equals to negative c over a plus a certain dash. So you have to complete the square. Now, in completing square method, what is filled in the dashes is a half of the coefficient of x. So that is a half of b over a, and a half of b over a is equal to b over a over 2a. So you take a half of the coefficient of b, then you square. So a half of it is b over 2a, then when it is squared, so on the left hand side you complete the square. So that's a half of b over a, then you square it. Also on the right hand side you also square it. So you go ahead and you will have x squared plus b over ax plus b over 2a squared equals to b over 2a squared minus c over a. So you just interchanged for negative c to come after b over 2a squared. So solving the right hand side, concentrate on the right hand side, we are going to have b over 2a squared is the same as b squared over 4a squared, then minus c over a. Now, 4a squared and a, the LCM is 4a squared. So we are going to have b squared minus 4ac over 4a squared. So we've solved the right hand side. So we come and factorize the left hand side. Now in completing square method, we say the left hand side is a perfect square. So for x squared, you take x. Then for b over a, that is the coefficient of x, you take half of it. So you're going to have x plus b over 2a, then you square, and this one equals to b squared minus 4ac over 4a squared. At this particular juncture now, we find the square root both sides. So when you find the square root both sides, you'll end up with x plus b over 2a equals to plus or minus, because the square root of this one is either plus or minus. So plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac over 4a squared. Now we can find the square root of 4a squared. It's going to be 2a, because the square root of 4 is 2, the square root of a squared is a. So what remains inside the square root sign is b squared minus 4ac. So this one gives us x equals 2 minus b over 2a plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. The LCM here is 2a, so putting them under the same LCM, it gives us negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a, and this is the quadratic formula that we are going to use to solve quadratic equations. Now, given the quadratic formula that x equals to minus b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a, then it follows that this part called b squared minus 4ac, that is the part under the square root sign, is known as a discriminant. So when b squared minus 4ac is greater than 0, that means when the discriminant is greater than 0, then the quadratic equation will have two roots. And when the discriminant equals to 0, then the quadratic equation has one root. That means it is a perfect square. So when you find the roots of perfect square using a quadratic formula, it will always be one root. And when it is below 0, then the quadratic equation will have no real roots, because we cannot find the square root of a negative number unless at another higher level where we use I. At this particular stage, we can't find the square root of a negative number. But there's a way of finding the square root of a real number using I, whereby I equals to the square root of a negative number. Now, after this has been said and done, we can see that deriving quadratic formula is done using the completing square method, and the formula can be used to solve a lot of quadratic equations. And in our next lesson, we'll try and use it to solve some of the quadratic equations that we have. Thank you for watching and learning. May you like and subscribe to my YouTube and Facebook channel on BC Online Mathematics. Thank you, and may you be blessed.